Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar on BIM 360 design. My name is Phil Marshall, and this webinar is one of a series offered by MicroCAD on the use of Autodesk cloud collaboration system BIM 360. As a company, MicroCAD empowers design professionals in the construction and manufacturing industries to increase productivity and meet project goals. With 30 years of experience as a minority-owned business, we pride ourselves on working with clients through every stage of the design process to assess needs and provide tailored and effective solutions. Today, we are focusing on the functionality and workflow supporting design collaboration. Design collaboration is where multiple people can participate in the design process and share information synchronously. This is clearly where the biggest benefits of BIM are. Autodesk has taken this concept and put it on the cloud. This webinar is intended to give you an understanding of what BIM 360 design is and how it works. This is a complex topic. A 45-minute webinar doesn't replace detailed training and hands-on experience, but it will build a foundation. As we go through this webinar, you may have questions or comments. Feel free to enter them into the questions area of the interface on the right-hand side. If you don't see the control panel, click on the orange arrow. I'll try to respond as I see questions. One other point, the excitement of cloud services is that they can be updated and extended continuously. So this webinar will cover the capabilities as they exist today, but next week there may be brand new functionality. We will repeat BIM 360 webinars in the future and expand them to cover all the new tools. First, let's talk about the problems that BIM 360 is intended to address. This applies to both vertical and horizontal construction endeavors, architectural, civil, plant engineering. Projects are getting more complicated, data is getting heavier, and the number of participants is increasing. These partners could be located anywhere, but they do have to share information. Using a BIM model as a central data repository makes sense in this environment, but how do all these players get access to the data? From experience, we know that solutions like Dropbox are error-prone, FTP sites consume IT resources, and SharePoint-like approaches don't provide the integration with the design tools that we need. Connectivity is no longer a 9-to-5 thing. People are working 24/7. From their home, their car, the trailer. We need better. Autodesk saw the solution as being cloud-based and tied to the software you use in everyday work. This resulted in BIM 360 Next Generation. BIM 360 provides access anywhere with any device, freeing up the workers to get out of the trailer and onto the site. It provides collaboration tools to enable designers to create submission sets for review and monitor the progress of the review. All of the project data from the BIM model can be reviewed in 3D or as a 2D drawing set. This data can be architectural, MEP, structural, civil, whatever, is all in one location. A corollary of having a strong BIM-oriented data management system is being able to create and track issues, providing for implementation of safety programs, including checklists and exclusion zones, and auditable management of RFIs and submittals. And this isn't just a vision of the future. Real companies are building real structures today using BIM 360. Whether it's the world's tallest modular structure, complex highway and bridge projects, or commercial construction, all have benefited from BIM 360. Today I'm going to be talking about using Revit with BIM 360 design, but Autodesk has released an integration with Civil 3D. This allows infrastructure designers to also share their work in the cloud, perform markups, and participate in the review process. In last week's webinar, we covered how to get started with BIM 360. Let me reiterate a couple of things that are very important for BIM 360 design. In a collaborative environment, users are grouped as a team. Usually a team would consist of the people working in a discipline, but isn't always limited to that. Here we have created 3 teams for architecture, fire protection, and MEP. As we create the teams, we can assign individuals. Note that as you create teams, BIM 360 will automatically create folders under the project files folder for the team. This is the home location the members of the team will use to store their designs. As well as creating the folders for the teams, it creates a subfolder named Consumed in each discipline folder. This is where a discipline can have packages that they trust as linked files. And it creates a folder named Shared, which has subfolders for all of the teams. These folders are really important when we look at the workflows you can have with BIM 360. Autodesk recognizes that different situations require different approaches, so they create a system that allows you to use BIM 360 with one workflow for a traditional design bid build project and a different workflow for a design build or IPD. Linking Revit models to the different folders will give different workflows, as we will see later. Let's do an overview of the capabilities of design collaboration. We'll get into the specifics later. Cloud work sharing allows multiple users on a team to simultaneously work on the single central file. Design and then sync to central. This concept is nothing new for Revit users. What's new is keeping the central file on the cloud. When the architect team wants to share the model with others on the project, they would publish sets of models, views, and sheets. These are put in the shared folder available for everyone on the project. Each discipline can explore the shared folder and OK it for use with their models, which moves it to their consumed folder. Then each discipline can continue their work. Just like the architect, each discipline can work share within their own team. While this is going on, members can communicate by creating issues for resolution and being involved in review processes. Partners in the project don't have to have Revit to participate in the collaboration. Anyone can create an issue, and the issue can be assigned to someone with an expected completion date. These issues can be managed, reviewed, and maintained in the document management portion of BIM 360. Issues create an audit trail which can be reviewed at the end of the project. A summary of outstanding issues also shows on the project homepage. Anyone with the right privilege can initiate a review process for sets of documents. People assigned to the review can mark up the documents, review and approve or reject, and the whole process is managed so people can see what reviews are in process and which are assigned to them. The review process is configurable, so you define what steps are required for the review. These collaboration tools, work sharing, release packages, consuming packages, issues, and reviews, can be used in a number of different ways. Let's look at the details of how these workflows can be configured and used. Here are 3 workflows. We can choose which one best meets the need of a particular project. Autodesk uses the term trust to differentiate them, indicating how closely we will work with our partners. The workflows vary by the steps involved in sharing and qualifying a design. In the case of a design build project where all the design work is done by one organization, you might choose the simultaneous design or live link workflow in red. This is the quickest and most responsive to change. Basically, changes occur immediately for all partners on the project. The trade-off is that there's no audit trail of the changes. In blue is the controlled release workflow for the traditional design bid build project. Here, the disciplines are likely to be different organizations or different departments of the same organization. Release packages are created when a task is completed. Each team releases update packages on a predefined schedule, perhaps every Friday, then coordinates the changes. A strong and detailed audit trail is maintained. Finally, what we're seeing more and more is a hybrid approach, or task-based publishing. Each discipline can be different organizations or different departments of the same organization. Release packages are created when a task is completed, typically quicker than in the blue controlled release workflow. A detailed audit trail exists for the packages. Let's look at these at some more detail. Simultaneous design is the fastest approach. Each discipline uses work sharing within their team, but here each discipline links to the live central models of other teams. If you were the MEP engineer, for example, you would link to the central architectural model in the project files/architecture folder. As each member of the architecture team syncs to central, the MEP team would be notified and would be able to use those changes immediately. Controlled release is more restrained. Each discipline uses work sharing within their team and syncs to their own central file stored in their discipline's folder. When a discipline chooses to share their updates, they create a release package which is put in the shared folder. Users in other disciplines can examine the shared data, and if it is ready, they would consume it, which moves it to the consume folder where it would be linked. If you were the MEP engineer, for example, you would link to the architectural model in the project files/MEP/consumed folder. The architectural changes move first to the shared folder and then to your consumed folder. The hybrid approach mixes both of those two. Each discipline uses work sharing within their team and syncs to their own central file stored in their discipline's folder. When a discipline chooses to share their updates, they create a release package which is put in the shared folder. Users in other disciplines link to the shared folder, so they would see the changes as soon as the authoring user decides to share the package. If you were the MEP engineer, for example, you would link to the architectural model in the shared folder. This would update as soon as the architect chooses to share it. Now, I know this all sounds kind of complex, but it really isn't. I explained it 3 different workflow approaches, and you just simply have to choose which one makes the most sense for you on a particular project. And BIM 360 gives you tools to visualize and manage this whole workflow process. The most graphic tool is the timeline. It shows for each team what design packages have been released and consumed. Here, dates go horizontally. Each package is represented by a circle, which gets filled in as it is consumed. Timelines can be used to check status, see if there are new project packages available, and predict schedules. Another very useful tool is compare changes. Here we can show the objects which have been added, changed, or deleted in a particular model. Each object can be selected to see its properties. So when you as the MEP engineer receive an update from the architect, you can see exactly what changes have been made so you can respond appropriately. Let's see how these things look in a live project in Revit and BIM 360. So here I am in Revit, and let me create a brand new project and make it a work sharing project in the cloud. So if I'm going to be the MEP engineer, I'll use a mechanical template. Brand new project, and I want to collaborate. When I go to the collaborate, it gives me the option of local collaboration, which is the land-based collaboration that Revit has had since 2002, I think, or collaboration in the cloud using BIM 360. Obviously, today we want to show this. So we choose that we're going to collaborate in the cloud for this project. We then, in the cloud, identify where we're going to put it. So we choose a hub and a project. And of course, this is going to be an MEP. These are the folders that were created for different disciplines. Being an MEP project, I'd put it in here. So this is where I'd put my mechanical work shared project. So it is very easy to make a cloud collaborated project, just as easy as it is to do a LAN work shared project. So let me open one that I actually built before for some ductwork. So I browse down to the MEP folder, find my ductwork project, and this is opening from the cloud. This is a work share project on the cloud. As I mentioned, you would link to the architectural file in the cloud. So if we take a look at Manage Links, we see this is linked to a model called Glendale Architectural, which is located on the cloud, and this is the path in the cloud that that architectural model exists. So if I'm the MEP engineer and I'm working on this, for those who don't know the MEP part of Revit, these triangles indicate that there's a piece of system work, in this case ducts, that aren't connected to anything. That's an error in the user side, not on the system side. So that's something I've got to hook these up. But I'm not going to do that just now. We're showing you collaboration, not how to design ductwork. So if I simply take this duct and I'll just move it over to the center of the room instead of the side of the room. So I now made a change to this. It needs to be synchronized to central, just like if I was doing LAN work sharing. So collaborate, synchronize with central, and it creates and updates the local file, saves back to the cloud, and now I've successfully synchronized. I want to point out that the integration with the cloud is intelligent enough so you don't have to upload all of the model to the cloud. It knows only the things that were changed, which makes this usable even with just a medium strength internet connection. So I've synced to the central, but that still isn't shared with anyone outside of my team. So members of the MEP team would see that I moved that duct, but nobody else would be able to see that yet. We control that by the publishing process. So if I look at the publishing, these settings determine when I publish a model what other people get to see. So if I say I want to show all of the floor plans and all the reflected ceiling plans and the elevations, and I could have a dozen sheets here, I can choose what is shared with other people. So this is the publishing settings. So I can say I want to take this ductwork model, which is in the sample project, and take my central and make it available for other people to see. And you can see that the latest version of the ductwork model has not yet been published. I can tell that because if I look at the others, these other files here, I see that the latest version has been published. This one hasn't. So I do want to publish the latest. That makes it available to all the members of the project, not just the members in the team. So now my update to this has been published. I'm going to close this model, and let's pretend I'm going to be the architect. And I'll go into the architectural model. So this is a Revit model for the architect. We can look at any of the views. And again, this is a cloud shared model, so any work I'm doing is synchronous with the other members of my team. All my team members see from the same central. Let me be the architect, and I'll make a simple quick change for the architectural. Right down here, there's a door, and maybe I want to take that door and move it so that I have room to add another window. So I'll throw another window in here. Real simple change. But of course, now I need to collaborate, synchronize central. So this would allow, again, all the members of the architectural team the ability to see these changes I just made. But until I publish it, it wouldn't be available to anyone else. So here I want to publish this. And this will make it available for everyone else on the project. So now, acting as both the MEP engineer and as the architect, I took those models, made changes, and published. So let's go to BIM 360 Docs and see what a user in BIM 360 would see. So here I have the folder structure. Under the project files, I have folders for all of the disciplines. Under the MEP folder, here's my ductwork model. And if I look, I see it was last updated today at 1:23, a couple of minutes ago. So I guess that's the change that I was just working on. Let's take a quick look at it. And because I publish both the 3D views and the orthographic views, I can look at these floor plans or the sheets or anything else that is created from the publishing settings that were done in Revit. So here we see that indeed that duct's been moved over to the center of the room rather than where it was before, so I can see the change. Notice that I don't have to be a member of the MEP team to see this. I could have been anybody in the project who has authorization to see these files. Notice also that in the BIM 360 Docs portion of the system, you have the ability to do redlining, to measure. So I could say, let's take a look at this. We want to look at things in feet and fractional inches. How long is this duct? 23.6. So you can actually measure and work with this model, 2D or 3D, it's all the same. You can redline and you can create issues. This yellow dot is an indication that someone thought there was a problem right here. So if we just click on the dot, then it tells me there's an issue saying it's unfinished. Yeah, well, I know it's unfinished. I got more work to do here. But somebody decided, actually it was me earlier today, decided that I got to put a issue to say that this is unfinished. And the type of issue could be a design issue, could be a quality issue, could be a question, an RFI. It can be assigned to somebody, so I asked Laura to take care of it by the end of the day today. On a typical project, you could have dozens or hundreds of issues, so you do need a way of managing them, and then keeping track of which ones are my responsibility. So what you can do is you can filter the issues and see only the ones that are still open, see the ones that are assigned to me. You can, for any of these issues, have attachments and keep track of the activities. So you see earlier today I created that issue. Let's take a look at another model here. So here we have another model with a few more issues, and you can see that the yellows indicate open issues and the blue indicate addressed issues. Here I have a list of all of the issues for this particular model, and if I click on one of these, it zooms right to the object that was a problem. In this case, somebody wanted to check the wind resistance of the door, so it zoomed right into that door, so you know what it is that you're talking about. These issues, in this case, was answered, so I can go back and see who said what and what the response was. All of the issues are auditable, so at the end of the project, you can create reports that indicate who was responsible, how quickly they responded, how many issues were design, how many issues were construction related. So we can keep track of all of that information, report on that. Another capability you have is to choose what we see by levels. So in this particular building, it's just a couple of levels, but if I cut to the first floor, now the objects I'm looking at are just the first floor objects, and these are levels as defined by Revit. So it makes it easier to look on the inside of a model, even on a very complex model. You can see what's going on inside. You could say, no, just show me the things on the second floor. So now we've got second floor objects. So that's a good tool for keeping track of what's going on inside the structure when you're thinking in terms of two-dimensional levels. We also have redlining. I think I showed you the one red line, but there's other red lines. So for example, here we keep track of all of the red lines on this particular model. And we can jump directly to show where that red line is and what view shows it the best. And review processes. As I mentioned before, documents can go through a review process that goes to multiple people for verification that it's acceptable. So if I look at the reviews that are outstanding for this model, these are different reviews that have been created, initiated, and told who's going to take the next action and when it's due. You'll notice that the person assigned could be an individual. In this case, I asked Sheila to take care of this. But in this case, it could be anybody from that company. So you can assign actions either by individual or by company or by role. So I could say the project manager has to review this. And whoever is the person who is acting as the project manager would then have to take the step to review it as necessary. I mentioned before the ability of keeping track of the packages that are flowing from one organization to another, and that's most easily seen in the design collaboration panel. Here we've identified the issues that are still outstanding, because you do want to keep track of the issues, and we've identified what sets of documents have been put together for the purpose of communicating from one person to another. And here's the timeline that we mentioned before. These are the various teams, discipline teams, and these are the packages that were created. This is a package for a external building on this project. Let's go to this one. This is the one from today. So this is the package from today that shows the information that was shared by both the MEP engineer and the architect. And from here we can go in to show by levels. You also could show by phases. In this case, it's only new construction. There is no existing. And we could choose the content we show by sets. Sets would be different views or different subgroupings of elements. So the design collaboration tool shows you when there are packages created by different organizations and how they get shared from one to the next. Remember, as the architect, I made a change to this model, Glendale Architectural. That was today at 1:26. If we look at this model, remember I moved the door and added a window down here. Well, if I was the MEP engineer and I get this updated model, I wouldn't necessarily know what the architect did. So what I can do is do a compare with the previous version. So now it's going to compare this version, version 14, with the previous one. And it gives you the ability to show the things that were added, the things that were removed, and the things that were changed. So in this case, we modified the door by changing the location. We added a window that's shown in green, and of course either of those is going to modify that wall. So the door got changed, moved by 9.5 feet. So it knows not only that it was changed, but what kind of change happened. And it modified the wall by adding a door and by moving the door and adding a window. So the area has been reduced by 36 square feet. So it keeps track of the changes. As an MEP engineer, this could be very important to know exactly what the architect has done from one release to the next. All right. We've kind of focused on user experience within Revit and BIM 360, but let's talk briefly about file management. We know that when Revit work sharing creates a local RVT file on your workstation, this contains your changes until you sync it with the central file in the cloud. Same thing happens with BIM 360, and there are other reference files you need to manage. The Autodesk Desktop Connector provides a mapping between the BIM 360 docs folders and local folders on your machines. If you have an application that isn't fully integrated with the cloud, you can access cloud data using the Desktop Connector pathing. It's like another disk drive on your computer. And any changes made on your computer are automatically uploaded to BIM 360. You can use this tool to drag and drop or manage files easily, knowing that the cloud version is always current. Files may be in many formats. This includes the usual secondary files needed by Revit. All right, so what we have seen is how BIM 360 design helps collaboration on a project. Users have found it extremely beneficial in getting projects completed on time, on budget. BIM 360 may seem like a lot, but it really isn't that complicated. If you invest in setting up your projects and integrating the workflow to your office processes, you will see the benefits too. If you feel overwhelmed, MicroCAD provides services to help our customers get started with BIM 360 and will support you in every phase of the project so you can reap those benefits. All right, so before I catch up on the questions, let me mention that MicroCAD will repeat these webinars. So take this opportunity to tell us what topics would be the most interesting to you and entering them in the question box. We really want to address your needs. All right, so let's see what questions we have outstanding. So someone has a BIM 360 team project already in process. So they're asking, what's BIM 360 team and what's different here? So about 3 or 4 years ago, Autodesk released a product called BIM 360 Team as a cloud service to do cloud sharing, collaboration in the cloud with Revit users. And that works very fine. It's a good architecture. It's a useful tool, but it really was siloed that the data was used by Revit and Revit only, which meant that when you go to construction, when you go to coordination, they didn't have access to the same information easily that you had in BIM 360 Team. So Autodesk came up with BIM 360 Next Generation, which is a product we're talking about today, which uses a single data architecture of Forge. So there's one source for all of this data, and you, the user, don't have to worry about moving data from one place to another. If you've got a project that you're working with in BIM 360 Team, I would recommend that you continue to use BIM 360 Team until the project is finished, simply because changing horses in midstream does introduce some trauma, and we really don't like trauma. But any new project should be started with BIM 360 Next Generation because of the value of sharing the data with all the other members of the team, especially downstream in construction. Oh, yeah, really good question. Can we do some of these things and not get into all the complexity? Yeah, it's common that you don't want to jump into the deep end of the pool. And if you're uncomfortable doing that, there's certainly lots of steps that you could use to get into it. If you've got a project starting next Monday and your people haven't even been trained yet, you don't have time to figure out workflows and checklists and all of that stuff. So you just want to get the cloud work sharing and document management going. As your people gain experience, then you would be able to add the other functionality and take advantage of those benefits. The only thing I will say, however, is that all partners of the project should be aware of where you are, what features you're using, just to make sure that the collaboration goes as smoothly as possible. Usually at the project kickoff meeting, you would establish the mechanisms and protocol for doing that collaboration. Let's see. Can we trust cloud services? Well, certainly everybody talks about the hacks and disclosures that happens, but we have to remember that the major cloud computing services, Amazon and the like, handle millions and millions of successful operations, and they do it every day. I remember a number from Autodesk just recently that they've got over 17,000 active projects in BIM 360. So we've got people around the world that are making a commitment to putting data into the BIM 360 cloud service. Autodesk uses Amazon Web Services primarily in the US, so lots of other web-based businesses use Amazon Web Services, likely your bank, most of your stores. So there's a lot of other things that you're committed to believing that this cloud services are reliable and secure. And if you have more questions, there's a website, BIM360 Autodesk.com/security, which has some white papers and other information on how you can check your security and verifying. Here's a question. Somebody wants to use AutoCAD as well. Of course you use AutoCAD. There's plenty of projects where AutoCAD would be the design tool of choice. And absolutely, you can use AutoCAD files in BIM 360. You would be using the Autodesk desktop connector to map those files to the cloud files so you can work with AutoCAD just as if they were local. You just point to the desktop connector when you open the file instead of to your local drive system. And another question on workflows. We showed 3 different workflows, and the question was, which is best? And the answer is, I don't know what's going to be best for you for a particular project. It's going to depend on the particular project and the number of partners, what your experience with BIM 360 is, what your partner's experience is. So in general, a small, quick project would tend to use the live link or high trust workflow. The project that's your first introduction to BIM 360 would probably be better with the managed trust workflow because it's more tolerant of mistakes or issues. And of course, if you've got partners who have a lot of experience, then you may lean on them as help you set up the workflows and bring it all together. This really ends up being less of a technical decision and more of a business relationship decision. But if you want some ideas about what the criteria are, give me a call or an email, and we can talk about that in some detail for your particular projects. Let's see what other questions there are. I don't see any more. All right. So it's 1:45, about the target that we're looking for. So I wanted to thank you for taking the time today to attend this webinar. I hope you found it useful. We will be repeating this series of BIM 360 webinars and adding new BIM 360 topics. We will, of course, update them with the latest functionality, which Autodesk keeps adding to the products. In fact, every week you start up the BIM 360 tool and it comes and says, look what's new. So it does keep changing and adding functionality. Keep watching www.microcad3d.com as we add more webinars to our events. If you want more information, feel free to contact me or any of the MicroCAD offices directly. And if you have any questions on how to implement and how to make that first step in getting into BIM, don't hesitate to send me an email. Thank you again for your time, and this ends the webinar.